All right, it's good to be back. Live stream of consciousness, rocking with you here on a Saturday. Definitely subscribe. Check out my Sacramento Kings, the good, the bad, the ugly video that I just posted. I'm gonna post that on every NBA team and post that about every NFL team as we get ready for NFL offseason to be over. A little bit less than 100 days before the season starts and less than 60 days before teams go into training camp. So it's a wonderful time of the year. We'll get to that. You know, everybody's doing the best that they've ever done in life. Everybody's taking the Super Mario mushrooms and gotten bigger and stronger and faster, and everyone's going to have the best season of their career all at the same time. So, but we'll get into that. NBA. So before I start, I picked the Warriors to win in 5. So that's obviously not going to happen. But just talk about game one briefly. I think the Warriors had control of the game, and then obviously the Celtics went on a 3-point barrage. So much of the league has changed now because of this 3-point shot. The variance in between games is just crazy. And a team just gets hot and it feels like you don't really have answers for it. Now, the Warriors only scored 16 points in the fourth quarter, and a lot of people theorized, hey, it took Boston a couple quarters to get used to playing the Warriors, and after that, they kind of got the rhythm of their offense, and that remains to be seen. But yeah, I mean, I think that was huge for Boston to steal that game. I thought that game was just a throwaway. You look to game two, and for them to come out and to hit the threes that they did, Tito Horford, the way he's played this whole offseason, just played dividends. It just seems like every move that Brad Stevens has hit has made has hit. So hats off to him, even going upstairs and bringing in Ime Udoka. Shout out to my Nigerian brother. Um, a move that a lot of people questioned initially because of how hard he was coaching the players, but it seems like they bought into his DNA and his way of thinking. So yeah, hats off to the Celtics. Game two, things that I'm going to be looking at. Jordan Poole, I think, he was terrible his first final game. And, these games, such stretches in between games, you can kind of think about it. You can either, stew about it and it becomes a funk that you get into, or you can pick up what you messed up and really attack from there. They're going to need him to be the secondary ball handler on the team, secondary scorer. Klay Thompson is just not the same guy physically. A lot of times Horford was guarding him and he couldn't shake him. And he wasn't always the greatest off the dribble guy, but they would run actions for him to get him on the move with a live dribble. And he was able to beat guys, turn the corner, put up for jump shots. And, they tried to run a lot of the same actions and he couldn't get past Horford. So I think it's going to be a tough series for him. Defensively, it looks like it might be a tough series for him. I thought they played pretty well, I think, defensively. There was a couple of situations where, and I sent this to my friends, where Draymond, he was just completely roaming off of Horford, off of Derek White, where they got open, uncontested threes. And maybe you play the numbers and say they're not going to shoot it that way again. But I think that he overcommitted and overhelped. Defensively, we go back to Jordan Poole. He was just a turnstile. He has to, at the very least, I'm obviously not the player that these guys are, but when I played basketball and when I'm teaching my son now, at the very least, if a guy is giving you trouble offensively, at the very least, seal off his strong, dominant hand and make him go to his weak hand. At the very least, do that. But Jordan Poole's not doing any of that. So there was talks about him getting, a $90 million contract this offseason. If you're going to be just in the biggest situations, you can't guard anybody, that number is going to go down. So he's a young kid. He's athletic enough. He shouldn't be this bad on defense. Looney, I thought he played particularly well. Draymond Green had a terrible game. 2 of 12. He says that he has to play better, especially with the way that Steph came out. Steph was amazing initially to start. Um, and I think it was just a wasted game by the Warriors. They're gonna, if they lose the series, I think they're gonna look back at this game one and think that, hey, they made a lot of shots, but we allowed them to make a lot of shots. On the Celtics side of the ball, Derek White has shot it extremely well since the birth of his child. I've been hot since the birth of my son. That's what Drake said. And I mean, I think that transferred over to Derek White. Horford, I mean, he won them that Bucks series. If you put that everything together, they were dead in the water that game that Giannis dunked on his head and he stared at him and, really led his team back. So he's played dividends. And, Jason Tatum didn't have the greatest of games. Once again, I think they're over helping. He's not he's a great player, but he's not that apex predator wing like the way that Kawhi was versus the Bucks or the Sixers, or the way that LeBron was his whole career, or even KD when he was on the Warriors. He's not that good. I would live with him making a lot of contested shots at the rim with a decent amount of help than giving his guys open shots. So I think they need to look at that. So game two, this is a must win for the Warriors. I would have them winning because it's a must win, but the Celtics, they have been a resilient bunch. I have been someone who has been skeptical on them. Check out my video on why I think that the Celtics can't win a title with these two. And hey, if they win, they win. I mean, I don't think they beat the Bucks if Middleton plays. But these past couple of NBA seasons, injuries have kind of dominated the story. It feels like that bubble season, they haven't really been able to recover with that, which, is another conversation for another day. But Richard Jefferson said that quickly. Let's just go ahead and talk about that quickly. Yeah, I thought he was flat wrong. His whole thing was like, hey, I played 82 games, get your body right, get your mind right. And, I think that as an NBA player, that there's three things that you should worry about and care about, right? It's, am I playing the game to the best of my abilities? Am I playing the game with integrity? And are we playing the game in a way that will bring us in more fans? Your edict as a player, right, is the gods of the game before us, the Jordans, have made it so now, players make $20 million and no one blinks an eye, right? And your job is to grow the game so the next generation can do that, right? And the 82 game season, I think, is at loggerheads with growing the game because it's just not the same product. And Richard Jefferson can get mad and say, I played back to backs. This isn't about you. Like, he's in his feelings right now. Like, get out your feelings. This isn't about your feelings. This is about how do we grow the game for the next generations. And the product that is given out because of the back-to-backs and because of the concise schedule, is not as good of a product as if we would spread out the season more. Let me give you a prime example. Remember when Kyrie Irving was a bit player and he was playing like once every 2 or 3 days because he couldn't play home games, but he could play road games? Remember how amazing he was? He was amazing like that because he was fresh. They've shown statistics that the amount of dunks go down, the amount of alley-oops go down, the amount of steals and fast breaks go down in back-to-backs. You saw the previous series, the Heat versus Boston, the competitive balance and the way that they played in those games wasn't as well as they played when there was rest. One of my reasons of picking the Warriors is I thought that the Celtics would be tired, but they've gotten so many days of rest that they're able to refresh themselves a little bit. So it's not about your feelings. It's like he's doing the macho, OG, young boys is soft. It's not about that. It's about how do we grow the game? How do we make it so we see players with billion-dollar contracts? That should be the edict, the torch that every generation of NBA player, so it's been 5,000 of them, shout out to them, but how do you carry the torch so every year we're making more money? Every year these kids, we're seeing billionaire athletes, shout out to LeBron James, where more former players can own teams. More former players can own things and be movers and shakers and be pillars of their community. So I don't ascribe to what Richard Jefferson's doing. I think he got applause somewhere, but I don't agree to that. Like at the end of the day, it's a better product if you space it out. Scarcity leads to attention, and that's part of the NFL's advantage over the NBA. There's only games once a week. If you're a fan of the Cowboys and they play on Sunday, you're going to watch that game. But we only play once a week. 82 games, it kind of dilutes the product, right? If you could maybe bring it down to 70, there's never any back-to-backs. There's always space in between games. Then you can say, hey, there's no reason to be missing games now, right? Because that's the thing that they're saying, oh, they're going to miss games regardless. They're going to say, oh, now 70 games, they're still resting. I don't think so. And then you can tie it into performance. They've talked about the new CBA because of Ben Simmons and James Harden and players of that ilk, tying your pay into actually playing up and performing. So there's ways to go about it. So I have to disagree with Richard Jefferson. NFL stuff, just real quickly, I wanted to talk about this Tom Brady contract because I was not in doing this, just getting over a bout of COVID. But I want to talk about this Tom Brady contract because, you get 10 years, $375 million. Troy Aikman was the previous high at 18, so more than double. And people are saying, oh, this is crazy. This is bad business. Are they doing this for prestige? Are they doing this for headlines? I think no. I think there's a simple reason why they're doing this. And two names, let me give you. LeBron James and Michael Jordan. So what do LeBron James and Michael Jordan have to do with Tom Brady getting this large contract? So Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest player of all time, the greatest player of all time, undisputedly when he retired. The NBA, through formality, I mean, he was making money, but they pretty much gave him the Hornets. It wasn't a bidding war or anything. They said, you're the greatest player in our league. We're going to give you a team, right? There's no bidding war. In your home state of North Carolina, we'll give you a team, right? There's already talks that LeBron is going to get a team when he retires, right? Shout out to LeBron for being a billionaire, but he's going to get a team when he retires, right? NBA teams, they run you about $2 billion. There was a bid made by Paul Allen and his group to Paul Allen's estate, by Phil Knight for $2 billion for the Trailblazers. LeBron's worth $1 billion. May need to call on some loans. They're talking about expansion in 2024. That's 2 years out from now. You can make it work a little bit, right? Tom Brady is the equivalent of Michael Jordan and LeBron James in the NFL, right? Another thing about those two guys that I mentioned is they're good for the NBA. They're good ambassadors, never been in serious trouble, business-wise, personal, family-wise, never been in the headlines, no nothing, right? Tom Brady is their equivalent in football. Good for the brand, good soldier. Think about the vaccinations, regardless of what you think about it. The leagues wanted their players to be vaccinated. LeBron James, being skeptical of vaccinations, still got vaccinated. Tom Brady, he drinks, some roots and muds and does all that. He TB12 is different. Do you think if he had his true say so, he would have got vaccinated or not? I'm skeptical, but he did it anyway to be a good soldier for the league, right? These have been guys. So just like LeBron and Michael Jordan have been good soldiers and going to be rewarded and have been rewarded with teams, you might look at it like, hey, they're going to give Tom Brady a team, right? You can't give Tom Brady a team in the NFL. Teams are running for $5 billion. $5 billion is the reported sale price of the Denver Broncos, right? So how do we take care of Tom? We can't get him a team, right? Let's go ahead and slide him this announcing package, right? I'm sure the NFL came to Fox and said, listen, man, we give y'all the good package, we give y'all the good slate of games, Super Bowls, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead and take care of our guy, Tom. Let's give him our gold watch. They got to take care of him. The NBA took care of Michael Jordan. He was a good soldier. They took care of LeBron. The NFL can't take care because the prices are too high. The price of the brick is too high. And Tom just started getting into the money game, doing the commercials, TV12 outlets and things of that nature, getting large contracts. Remember, he always took the discount, right? So he just started getting into the money game. So how do we take care of Tom? Let's give you this contract. I would bet you dollars or donuts that Tom probably doesn't even finish that contract and he still gets the whole 375. I bet you he doesn't even finish it. And they still, you know what? We'll go ahead and mutually, but you go ahead and get the money. I think this is the NFL saying, Tom, say for example, counterparts of his, Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to get vaccinated, constantly fighting with people in the media. Tom Brady doesn't do any of that, right? So they said we got to take care of Tom, right? I remember when the bubble happened, and Patrick Beverly said, "Listen, because there was a debate, are they going to go or not? The players need to vote." He said, "Listen, this is how it's going to work. What LeBron wants us to do, we're going to do. If LeBron wants to go to the bubble, we're going to the bubble, right? If LeBron's getting vaccinated, the majority of the players in the league get vaccinated, even though some of them might be skeptical. If he didn't, it probably would be different. If Tom Brady didn't, it probably would be different. They held the line for the leagues in multiple occasions, in multiple ways. They've been good flag bearers, and they have to take care of him. I think this is the NFL taking care of Tom Brady. All right, so be back up every day. Thank you for rocking with me. We're getting to the second half of the year, so let's be consistent. Let's do this consistently for 6 months, and let's see what we can do. Leave your comments. I respond to all of them. I'm gonna start doing smoke shows on Thursdays or Wednesdays for the people that leave me the zesty comments, and just spend a day responding to comments. All right, game is game. All right, that's it for this clip. Subscribe, leave a comment, and respond to all the comments. The game is the game.
So what's up, man? What's up with you otherwise, The game is a game. Always.